Welcome back, guys. It's another beautiful day. I'm feeling pretty free today. How about you, Nick?
I feel freer every day. Just doing what I love to do.
It's pretty cool, man. For those of you that you're coming back, welcome back. And for those of you that are new, thanks for joining us. And for all of those of you that it's your first time with us, I'll just start off by telling you a little bit about what we do here on Freedom Empowered. So, what we do is we teach people how to achieve personal freedom. So, as we know, there's four pillars of freedom. There's freedom of finance, freedom of action, freedom of movement, and freedom of thought. And using these parameters, we determine where your life falls on the freedom scale, and then we can help you focus on specific elements that you need to improve on to become more free. And it's really important to note, guys, that everyone's personal definition of freedom is going to be different and unique. And essentially what that is, it's your life dreams. So what everyone aspires to get out of life is going to be unique to them individually. And I think that one of our society's biggest issues is that a majority of people don't even know what they truly want. They're either listening to friends, family, maybe school, or just the community that they're from, and they don't even actually know what they're striving for. So that's the first thing we do. And then, as you know, in many cases, like personal freedom might seem like a mindset or basically just how successful are you. But the point we want to make clear is that we're not just a motivational show. We're not trying to pump you full of false hope. We're here to actually teach you how to achieve your dreams.
And basically, the way we do that is we explore and scientifically break down the fascinating lives and accomplishments of truly free men and women on the show. So, what is freedom to them? And then we discuss how they got there. And we try to realize that the greatest among us aren't magicians at all. Like they simply knew where they wanted their lives to go and made it happen. They knew what their dream was, and they had the motivation to get there. So on the Freedom Empowered podcast, we're here to show you how to channel your dreams and systematically move you in the right direction to make them reality.
So guys, on today's episode, we're going to talk about something a little different. We've been talking about success, talking about people that have been crushing the dreams. But on this one, we're going to talk about those who start off in a worse position than most. We're going to talk about people who, came into the game at a disadvantage and they still managed to push through it and become successful. So we're going to talk about a few people. The first one is going to be Rocky Aoki. I don't know if you guys know who he is. I know some of you guys might know who Steve Aoki is. He's a big EDM musician. He's a DJ.
His music goes ins.
But anyways, his dad actually was arguably more successful than him. So have any of you guys heard of the restaurant chain Benihana's? It's a fancy Japanese style dining restaurant, but he actually founded Benihana's, and as we'll talk about, his life story was pretty interesting. He came in at a pretty big disadvantage. He came over here from Japan and then still managed to create a restaurant empire. But so the first thing, where he started, he grew up in Japan. He did a couple things as he was growing up. He tried unsuccessfully to make a band. He played track and field, karate, and wrestling at a Japanese university. And then later on in life, he realized that wrestling was the thing he was either best at or was his passion, and he focused on that, and he ended up traveling around the world, winning numerous wrestling titles, many of which were in the U.S. And, for many people, that is a pretty huge accomplishment in and of itself. But then, after he was done being an athlete, he moved to New York City. He rented an ice cream truck that he worked in 7 days a week in Harlem, and then he saved up enough money while studying restaurant management at a community college to open his first Benihana's, which was on West 56th Street. For those of you that are from New York City and know where that is.
Well, I feel like something cool about him is basically like just breaking down his life practically. Is like he always did what he was interested in, like what was fascinating or fun for him. Like from starting a band to playing multiple sports, he was always doing what his dream was at the time.
And that's a big part where when we're talking about creating your own, or just even knowing what your definition of personal freedom is. It's what do you want to do? And I think part of that has to be that you need to be doing things that are what you want. You can't just do things that other people want you to do or your parents want you to do is a big one that happens in today's day and age. Is like people's parents have a outline of how they want their lives to go, and then they'll just do that and they never try to do what they want. So where they end up being is in a full-fledged career path or halfway through with their lives and haven't even really attempted to do something that they truly love yet. So this is what I like here is that he found something that he loved to do and he tried multiple things and really just was himself. And I think the second part that's really interesting about this is that he worked 100% to develop like a mindset and a set of skills in whatever path he was doing. So, as a lot of people, they will just coast through life, or they'll be doing something that they don't like. Like no one likes school. No one likes school. So, how many people don't really try in school because they say that I don't like this. This isn't for me. So I'm just going to not give it my all. Or they get their first job and they're like, hey, this isn't really for me. I'm just going to put in 50% and not really try. And the issue with that is you're not setting yourself up for success. So what you'll see is that.
Well, I feel like like on the show we've always talked about setting up yourself for success, and sometimes the factors that played the biggest role in your eventual success are, I guess, unconventional. Doing things probably that you don't want to do. Like we talked about how he had an ice cream truck that he rented out. That's very unconventional. I doubt he did that every day and was like, I love my job. I love this. This is the best. But I feel like the way he viewed it was, this is a good way to get me in the direction I need to go to start the Benihana's restaurant, to start my dream, basically. He used it as a step.
Part of what he did was he worked 100% at anything that he tried, so he was able to like basically develop a hard-working personality and also just a go-getter attitude. And then when he did find what he wanted to do, it was able to translate pretty well. It was almost like what you're doing isn't so important as how you're doing it. So he was basically created the success mentality, and then all he did was transition into a different job and was able to be just as successful, if not more, at that new job. And one of the other big things about him is that he wasn't afraid to change. I believe this was 2 episodes ago that we talked about the idea of change and how you need to not be worried about getting out of your comfort zone, because it's actually a good thing to be able to, not be afraid to try new things. Otherwise, you're going to just end up being stuck in a rut, for a lot of your life.
I think that was the last episode where how he moved from Japan over to the States to do something he loved. He didn't know English better than anyone who's already here. He was basically starting from zero. But he had a mindset.
I think it's even simpler than that. I mean, yeah, he moved from Japan and he didn't speak English, but just think about the fact that he left his entire family and friends. How many people would move away from their family and their friends? How many people stay in their hometown and just hang out with their local friend group, and maybe they'll go to a community. There's nothing wrong with going to community college, but how many people might have an opportunity to go start a career in a different state or a different country and then choose to stay home because they're afraid to leave people they care about? Which I'm not saying to ever turn your back on those people in your life. But what I'm saying is that when you see an opportunity to present itself, don't be afraid to go and take advantage of that. And then, maybe one day you can bring those people that you grew up with up to your level.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you inspire them to do the same with their lives. It's it's the whole it's a completely a mindset. That's the best way I can describe it. It's the mindset of not staying where you're at and pursuing better in your life.
Right.
It's trying to move up in the world and having that winning mindset. And
right. If you
and Rocky Aoki, he had that winning mindset. Like, he didn't stop at being just a mere participant at his field or skill. Yeah, he tried to be the best at everything he did. And at the end of the day, he held that mindset that he was going to be a winner.
And if you look, we talked about it earlier, how you got to put 100% in, and no matter what you're doing. So obviously, being a world wrestling champion has nothing to do with the restaurant business. It has nothing to do with the ice cream truck business or anything of the sort. But can you really sit there and tell me that him being a world champion wrestler wasn't a major factor in him being a quote-unquote world champion restaurant owner? You know what I mean?
Yeah. He took that mindset from that. So that's like the only thing he took from it was basically the mindset of giving it your 100% and trying to be the best out there.
I think I think the next big thing that he did was, from our 3 steps to success, the know what you want to do, take massive risk, and then not let anyone tell you otherwise. I think he really embodied the 3 steps to success here, especially in the second one, taking massive risk. So after he moved to New York City and he rented out an ice cream truck and worked 7 days a week in it, he worked for years to save up a meager $10,000. And then after those years were up, he used that $10,000, invested it all into his dream of Benihana's, knowing that it could completely be lost, and still did it because he had a dream. And what you'll see is that it wasn't even like his first restaurant wasn't some big magnificent chain. It was simply a 4-table sit down Japanese style restaurant on a corner in New York City, and he invested years of his life savings into that.
Yeah, and I just want to talk to you guys about the go line. So the go line is basically you have your ideas, you plan it out, and then getting to that point where you're ready to actually start pursuing it. So, like, it's better to be a loser at the next tier in life than it is to be the best at the lower one. So to go back to, like, high school sports, would you rather be the best junior varsity? We'll use wrestling because he wrestled, but best junior varsity wrestler or the 64th best varsity wrestler? At one point, you're going to have to make that jump and continue with that 100% mindset to become the best at the next level, and then jump up, become the best at the next level, and you just have to get to that point where you're ready to start pursuing it.
Right. And I think it's a kind of a sad thing that people do in today's society is they'll give up before they even reach the goal line. I think that 90% of the work and 90% of your effort happens before you even, just to get to the goal line. It's before you even put yourself in a position to be like in the race. You're still training up to get in the race, and people will give up and say, oh, it's not possible, this is too hard, I'm failing, this is not for me. And you haven't even got to the point where you can even start reaping the benefits of success and actually start moving forward. And so for him, what he did was he wasn't at the goal line until he opened his first Benihana's. But all of are you telling me that over those however many years that he was slaving away in an ice cream truck that he didn't even own. It was a rental that he didn't think that maybe I should give up. I don't see the future here. I don't see, where I can go. Maybe he didn't even have the idea for the Benihanas while he was working the ice cream truck, but he knew that if I want to do something in the future with business, I need to have some capital saved up. So he might not even had the idea, but he still said, this is just that 90% effort that I have to put in to make it to the goal line, to actually start owning my own source of income, actually owning my own source of production, where I can start to actually work on my dream, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. To break it down simply, when he was doing the ice cream truck, he wasn't at the goal line yet. It was the goal line was starting the restaurant. So there's work you need to do before you reach the goal line, and then once you reach the goal line, there's probably even more work. And it's just
still more work, but at least it's
something
satisfying. At least you're working for yourself, and honestly, you'll be able to also see, the benefits of success. You start to see, the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, I feel like that's a large problem nowadays. Is people are too scared, or they get too comfortable, and they're not willing to jump up to that next level, and they're just really settling. You know what I mean? Like
people are afraid. People are afraid to put themselves in an uncomfortable situation. People are afraid to feel insecure. We talked about it already, but he was a world champion wrestler, and in other countries like Japan and like Europe, like the way that they revere their athletes is way different than the way we do it here in America. Like here, we like our athletes, but there, they revere them. As a professional athlete or as an Olympic athlete in some European countries and in Asia, they're more than celebrities. They're taken care of for the rest of their life. He probably could have gone back to Japan and taught wrestling and been taken care of by his community because he was such a big deal to them. But he decided to leave a celebrity status in Japan, come completely out of his comfort zone, and as Nick said, become the bottom tier, literally a street vendor in New York City, because he saw a bigger dream for himself.
All right, guys, and Mason and I were talking before the show, and so originally we were just going to talk about Rocky Aoki, but I came across some articles about Ben Carson. I'm sure you guys have heard of Ben Carson. So he grew up poor in a single-parent household. His mother pushed him and his siblings to read and believe in themselves, really. So he grew up in that attitude in the household where believe in yourself, pushed to be the best. And in his life, he worked hard, and he pushed to become a neurosurgeon. And actually, in the past presidential election, he ran for president. So for those of you who live in poverty, can you imagine yourself running for president or becoming a doctor? You probably think it's impossible to do. And he's not the only one. There's many people out there who started from the bottom, but with hard work and a dream, they were able to do it. It's not impossible to do. And if you have the drive, you can make it out of poverty, is basically.
I think what this comes down to is I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's this idea called the consistency effect. And what it is that people mentally, just as a society, they feel comfortable with consistency, right? So they go out there and they try to look for patterns. So someone will say, hey, you grew up dirt poor, or hey, you grew up uneducated. So therefore, through consistency, by the social norm, you're not going to ever be able to become successful. And although it's true that if you start at a disadvantage, you may have to put in more work to make it to that next level. A lot of it is just a false barrier set up. So how many people who see themselves, hey, I grew up really poor, hey, I didn't go to college, I'm really I'm uneducated, and then they choose to not even attempt to do something amazing because they just see that, oh, so well, according to society, I'm not really ever going to be in a position to actually do this on my own. So I'm just going to not even try.
Well, speaking of Ben Carson, he actually just he came out and said poverty is a state of mind, and a lot of people got mad at him. And I understand why people would get mad about that, but like obviously that's not 100% true, and that's not what I'm trying to say. But just try to look at it my way. If you let being in poverty hold you back, like you tell yourself, I'm poor, so I can't do this, or I'm poor, so it's gonna be too hard for me to do, and you just don't want to put in the work for it. It has technically become a mindset for you. It's become your state of mind where you're letting this thing called poverty hold you back.
I think we can back it up with some statistics too. So when you look at wealth throughout the country, people will say, hey, how am I ever going to be massively rich if I'm not there? There's already people at the top, and all they're doing is preventing me from getting there. But as the statistics will show, it's actually quite the opposite. About 7 in 10 wealthy families lose their fortune by the second generation. And then of those, I guess 30% that do maintain their wealth, 90% of those people will lose their entire wealth by the third generation. So essentially what we're saying here is by the third generation, that's 2 generations after you,
Your grandkids, basically.
pretty much all wealth has been lost. So for people to sit around and say, hey, I can't go out there and be rich because there's already rich people out there, that's not true at all, because the majority of people that are wealthy are first generation wealthy. I mean, we talked about it in a previous episode. In 2017 there was 700,000 new millionaires created. So it's definitely a possibility, but what you can't do is get yourself stuck in this mental trap where you think that you're incapable just because of where you started out in life.
And seeing, like, all right, we're just trying to make you guys see how owning your life and achieving personal freedom it's more of a science than a magic. So all the people keep telling us how we should do this way, like your family, teachers, schools, friends, they tell you should do everything this way. And we get into that trap where we conform to the rest of society. And what you need to do is the same as every other successful person does. They invest into themselves. They're not afraid of change, and they're willing to take those massive risks to succeed. So they're not letting anyone hold them back, and not letting anyone get into their heads by saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Right. So don't just coast through life because you haven't found your passion. Begin now to invest in yourself, develop skills, and most importantly, this winning mentality, so that when you do find your passion and the opportunity presents themselves to take advantage of that passion, you, one, are able to even see the opportunity, to even realize that it's there, and then two, you have the skills and the work ethic to actually harness that opportunity and turn it into something great. I think I'll give you another quick example. This is a short one. It's actually a personal story. One of my buddies, he's from Kenya, and he grew up on the streets in Kenya. He actually was homeless for a couple years in Kenya. And what he did was he found a way to get to the United States. He ended up, I believe, playing track and field for an American college. He majored in electrical engineering. And then now he owns 4 homes in Georgia, I believe. So when you look at someone like this, one, he grew up on the street, so he was homeless, so he had no formal education, and he was able to successfully complete an electrical engineering degree. So don't you ever say that you don't have the education to, go to the next level, because he didn't have any education. He got an electrical engineering degree. And two, don't say that I can't be a property owner. I can't own my own source of income because of where I started, because he went from being homeless to owning 4 homes. How many of us own 4 homes? All he did was believe that it was possible, and now he's creating a brand new life for him and his family. I just think it's pretty interesting to see the possibilities.
And people look at people like they're wildly successful and see them as like a superior being. But I think we got to realize that we're all the same. We're all humans. We may start at different levels, but the opportunity is there for all of us. We all have that opportunity. And I just want to challenge you guys to sit down and think about your personal freedom. Watch some interviews with some people in your field, and you realize that they're normal like you. They just had that mindset to work and pursue their dream.
Yeah, guys, it's anything is possible if you put your mind to it. But that's pretty much all we got for you today. As always, if you enjoyed our show, which I'm sure you did because it was pretty amazing, go ahead and share it with your friends, because I believe that everyone deserves to be able to reach the next level in their lives, and here we can go ahead and help you do that. So go ahead and share our show and give it a like on, the Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, and
you guys can also follow us on Twitter. It's at Empowered Podcast. Our Facebook page is Freedom Empowered. And go on iTunes, rate, review the show. We got a lot of new stuff coming out, guys.
If you have any specific questions or concerns or anything that you want us to help you understand, go ahead and shoot us a message.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next time.